Don't I know you, sir?
Don't believe so. I haven't been here in many years. Name's Silas Greaves.
Silas Greaves? The bounty hunter?
Used to be.
Well, what are you doing here in Abilene?
Just passing through. Got a little business to take care of.
Well, sir, it would be an honor if you would allow me to buy you a beer.
Hell, son, it would be my honor to drink it.
I'm Molly. Howdy.
I'm Dwight. That's Jack and Steve. Ben's behind the bar. Oh, I bet you got some great stories.
A couple.
Any of them true?
Jack, be nice.
A few.
What about your shootout with Henry Plummer's gang in Bannock, Montana? Is that where you started as a bounty hunter? That's what it says in this here dime novel.
Don't believe everything you read in them dime novels, boy. First man I hunted was back when I was riding with Billy the Kid.
You knew Billy the Kid?
Damn right. That scrawny son of a bitch had no fear. Wouldn't back down for nobody.
I heard he collected the 10 stars off any crooked lawmen who crossed him.
It was a war, boy. The Lincoln County War. And Billy promised his regulators would take the life of every bastard who helped bushwhack John Tunstall.
Kid had a big chip on his shoulder and a hair-trigger temper. Made him dangerous as hell. It was about 30 years ago. Billy was hiding out in an abandoned farm near Stinking Springs. I threw in with the kid because the man I had sworn vengeance on was riding with Billy's enemies. But before I tell you why I want that sumbitch dead, let me tell you what happened that day. I was heading back to the hideout when suddenly I had this funny feeling.
Funny, haha?
No, Steve. The other kind of funny.
You heard Pat. You need to stay here and keep an eye on the road.
That's not fair. We're missing all the fun.
I knew those two morons would never let me through.
What the hell? Shoot that sumbitch!
Was it Pat Garrett's posse?
Oh, yeah. I heard the shots and I knew I had to move fast.
Fire at will!
Garrett and his army of deputies had surrounded the entire homestead. I decided to help Billy and the boys out of it. So that's just what I did.
Hey, we have one behind us!
It was a bit of a slog, but I finally fought my way around the back of the house. And like that, I was inside, none the worse for wear. I passed Dirty Dave.
Deader than a rat in a trap!
And upstairs, I found Billy and Charlie Bolger.
How about that?
Billy looked at me and said, "About time, amigo. Grab a gun and get to the window."
Wait, so you were friends with Billy the Kid?
Yeah, sort of. Anyway, we were surrounded by dozens of deputized shooters who wanted to do us harm.
Killing everybody!
That's when Charlie got hit. "They're catching us in a crossfire," shouted Billy. "Get to the other side!" I don't know how many of those cocksuckers I personally put down, but it was pretty clear, even to Billy, that maybe discretion was the better part of valor.
What's that mean?
It means that it was time to cut and run. "They got a Gatlin," Billy shouted. "Get the horses and bring them round back. I'll draw their attention." And that's when I met Sheriff Pat Garrett.
I read that you went toe-to-toe with him, sir. That backstabbing bastard with that tacked-on 10 star. You challenged him to a showdown.
You read that in a dime novel?
It said he showed no fear as he took your measure with eyes like a rattlesnake. killed him in a fair fight.
Is that what that penny dreadful said? No, boy. That ain't what I meant when I said I met Pat Garrett. So let me start again. I finally reached those damn stables. And stepped inside, and bam! Last thing I heard was Garrett's voice. That's not Billy.
And go on, how did it end?
And, boy, that was just the beginning.
So what happened? Did Garrett arrest you?
Yeah, after I came to, the bastard had clocked me with his Colt.
And the kid surrendered?
When he realized there was no getting out of there alive.
So they locked you up in Lincoln?
Indeed they did. Sentenced me to hang right along with the kid. It's important to know that I was only riding with Billy so I could find the bastard I was after. He was with John Kinney's gang, and they were sworn enemies of Billy's regulators.
Why were you after him?
I owed that son of a bitch a bullet for what he had done to me and mine. Instead, all I got for myself was a goddamn death sentence. Luckily, it was right around then that I heard Billy make his move. He shot Jim Bell and a few other guards as he made his getaway. Later, they wrote that some lady friend planted a pistol for him in the privy. What the papers didn't say is that Billy helped me escape, too. My first order of business was finding a firearm. Luckily, I located Deputy Bob Ollinger's mean-ass shotgun. I saw Billy through the window, and he yelled that I should take to the rooftops to make my escape. So I did. Guards were everywhere looking for him.
Can't let the kid get away! Anybody see him?
I had to jump from roof to roof like a damn alley cat. I followed the planks where I could, but some of that wood was slippery as hell. The whole town was up in arms. And suddenly, I was a fugitive.
So that bastard you were after, what did he do?
He did me and my family a grievous harm. But I knew if I was ever going to find him, I would need to get my ever-loving ass out of there. But hell, if they weren't all waiting for me. Apparently, some of them thought I was Billy. So much lead was whizzing by my head, it was like everyone in Lincoln wanted to put me in the ground. I knew I needed to find a horse.
But where was the kid while you were busy getting shot at?
Gone. And that's when it occurred to me why Billy set me free. So I could be a hapless decoy and draw attention while he snuck out of town.
I guess Billy saved your ass, taking out Bob Ollinger the way he did.
Billy didn't kill Bob.
Well, sure he did. He dispatched him right after he shot Deputy Bell.
No, sir. Because Bob came right up behind me, angry as hell that Billy had lit out. "Hello, Bob," I said. "I think you better let me go." And he says, "I don't think so, boy. Not with my shotgun." So we stood there in the middle of the street, eyeball to eyeball. He intended to kill me, and I knew I had no choice but to defend myself. I killed him in a fair fight. Everybody saw I had no damn choice. Pat Garrett gunned down Billy 3 months later, so his escape was all for naught anyway.
So where'd you go after Lincoln?
Mexico. Until I realized nobody was looking for me. I ended up taking a job at the Rurales.
The Mexican Rurales?
I was hired to help them track down the COWBOYS.
The most vicious outlaw gang in Cochise County? Curly Bill Brocious? Johnny Ringo?
Led by old man Clanton himself.
They must have paid you a pretty penny to take them hombres on.
Not really. But truth be told, I had my own reasons for going after those boys.
So was the bastard you were after now riding with the COWBOYS?
Roscoe Bob Bryant was his name.
Oh.
But no, this time it was a different bastard I was after. The aforementioned Mr. Ringo. And yes, he was working for old man Clanton. I came upon them robbing a stagecoach, which wasn't surprising, being they were such murderous thieves and bastards. The bandits wore red scarves, so I knew they worked for the old man.
Over there! Somebody!
I did my best to help those poor passengers. Moments later, the attackers were dead, and I checked the stagecoach to see how many passengers were still breathing. None. It was then I wondered if the rocks weren't hiding more bandits. Was that all of them? Or did I just hit the rear guard? I quickly got my answer. They attacked from on high like Apaches often do. They would appear in great numbers from above and rain down lead on their hapless enemies' heads. Yep, the Apaches always appeared out of nowhere, and there never seemed to be an end to them.
Hold on, were you attacked by Apaches? What happened to the COWBOYS?
Did I say they were Apaches? I said Clanton's COWBOYS attacked me Apache style. I was in a pitched battle, but I was holding my own against an overwhelming enemy force. Finally, they managed to corner me. Trapped as I was, the odds of my survival seemed pretty slim. Luckily, serendipity was on my side as I suddenly spotted a way out of my predicament. I'm done with you! I ran ahead as if the devil himself was after me. Bullets were whizzing by my ears, but I wasn't about to roll over and die. I just kept running like there was no tomorrow. Because there wouldn't be if Clanton and his men caught up with me. And that's when something miraculous happened. Like manna from heaven, I found the desiccated remains of what looked like an Apache warrior. The old weapon next to him supplied me with some much-needed ammunition. Bat Masterson once told me it was more important to be lucky than good. And imagine my surprise when I found a fistful of dynamite to go along with that ammo. It was time to turn the tables. Time for the prey to become the predator. Time for the hunted to become the hunter. Time.
All right, Jesus, we get it. They were right where you wanted them.
That's right, Jack. I was done running. It was finally time for that old man to pay for his sins. I yelled out at the top of my lungs, "Clanton, I'm coming for you!" A little stealth might have made more sense, to be perfectly honest. Because that old fool had a Gatling gun and enough bullets to last him till kingdom come.
How you live this long?
Apparently, one of the COWBOYS made it out of there alive and told Ike and Billy Clanton that it wasn't a Mexican who took their father's life that day. They just assumed it was one of the Earps, and that little misunderstanding eventually led to that legendary gunfight at the OK Corral. A few weeks after that dust-up at the OK Corral, I was still after Johnny Ringo. I had tracked him and the COWBOYS to their hideout at a sawmill, and they were loaded for bear.
So what exactly did Johnny Ringo do to piss you off?
Well, him and that other bastard.
Roscoe Bob Bryant?
Yep. They both deserve to die, and I promise I'll tell you why. But first I need to tell you about the Cowboys' new boss, Curly Bill Brocious.
Herb's coming!
Get ready, boys. Curly Bill took charge of the Cowboys upon the old man's demise, and after that gunfight at the OK Corral, the Clantons wanted revenge. So they murdered Morgan Earp and grievously wounded his older brother, Virgil. Wyatt and Doc went on what became known as the Vendetta Ride, hunting those outlaws down. So when I showed up, that's who they thought I was.
They say that Ringo was infernally fast.
I hardly saw anyone faster, boy. Certainly not Wyatt Earp. That man was all hat and no cat.
Earp wasn't much of a match for him, but Doc Holliday might have taken him.
That Lunger should have kept his nose out of it. They never charged anyone for the murder of Morgan Earp.
But everybody knew that Curly shot him in the back. That was common knowledge.
Yeah, maybe so. But Ringo had nothing to do with it. He was just being loyal to a friend.
Is that what you call it? Being loyal? Curly Bill, Johnny Ringo, and his compadres took off into the lumber yard, and I followed after.
Are you saying they ran? Cowardice was not in Ringo nor Curly Bill's nature.
No, sir. I never said they were running scared. They just wanted me out in the open. Brocious gave me no choice but to take his life. But Ringo was nowhere to be found.
I knew you didn't kill Ringo, because he was found dead in a different location altogether.
To this day, his killer is still unknown.
Indeed. Took me a few months before I finally tracked his ass to West Turkey Creek Canyon.
That's incredible, sir. I always thought that Doc Holliday was the one that killed him.
Sorry I had to ruin the legend for you, boy. But the legend ain't always true. I was paid a healthy bounty for Ringo and Curly Bill, and realized there was real money to be made. That's why I went after Henry Plummer.
Now, wasn't he the sheriff who augmented his income by shaking down miners and robbing gold shipments?
That's the one.
Oh, yeah, I remember him. He ran that gang of thieving outlaws called the Innocents.
So it's true that you went toe-to-toe with him?
Indeed I did, son. Indeed I did. I knew I needed resources if I was going to track down Roscoe Bob Bryant, and hunting Plummer looked like a good way to get rich quick, as the local vigilantes exposed him as the leader of the bandits and put a generous price on his head. Plummer rallied his gang to plunder one last gold mine before making their escape, and that's where I thought I'd find him. Plummer had a lot of men on his payroll, a hell of a lot. That son of a bitch pretended to protect the public with one hand while stealing them blind with the other.
Gonna need a dustpan to pick you up! This day is just getting worse and worse for you, ain't it?
Henry Plummer was clearly unhinged, and I could see right away that this was gonna take some doing.
God damn it! I passed!
So that's how Henry Plummer died. Him and his crew were worth their weight in gold. And now, I was officially a bounty hunter.
So, did you finally go after that Bob feller?
Well, I heard word he was in Kansas with John Wesley Hardin, so that's where I went.
Where in Kansas?
Abilene. Why do you ask, Ben?
No reason.
Was Hardin as fast as Ringo?
Ringo was fast, but John Wesley was as fast as the devil himself. Hell, he killed his first man at 15. From that day forward, he had a price on his head and wouldn't back down for nobody, not even Wild Bill Hickok himself. I dodged death many a time, and that night in Abilene was no different. I was there with the intention of finding that bastard Bob and collecting the bounty on John Wesley. To the very same saloon we're sitting in today. Look around and imagine this place painted in blood. Hardin was waiting for me. Wait, I'm jumping the gun here. Let me back up and give you some background on this sumbitch. He deserves that much. Don't you think so, Ben? John Wesley Hardin was a killer. By the end, he confessed to taking the lives of 42 men. He was a bona fide folk hero by then, and had amassed a gang of armed miscreants and other assorted thugs. He and his men set up camp outside of town, and I was hoping Bob was among them.
God damn it! Oh, shoot that son of a bitch!
They didn't ask why I was there. They knew. Most of these degenerates were beyond redemption, but John Wesley might have been a different story. I didn't learn until later that that night was in fact his birthday celebration. Suffice it to say, nobody there was happy to see me. I was disappointed that neither Bob nor John Wesley were among the dead. But that was short-lived, as a moment later I was facing down the fastest gun in the West. I felt a bolt of adrenaline, or maybe that was fear. He was well known for his tricks, and I knew I'd need my own if I was ever to defeat him. That man was faster than greased lightning. But being inebriated as he was, he didn't count his shots. And now, he was at my mercy.
So he didn't die?
No, I sent him to prison. Years later, after he was free, some restless avenger took his life. Shot him in the back at a saloon just like this one. Anybody up for another beer? Thank you, darling. Yeah, some say revenge is a dish best served cold.
So whatever happened to that Bob guy you were after?
Personally, I'd like to hear some of your other adventures. Like, I don't know, did you ever go toe-to-toe with a red man?
Yes, I did, Ben. I remember once I was after this renegade Apache, Grey Wolf. Strangely enough, revenge was also his primary motivation. A bounty was put on Grey Wolf's head, and that's how I came to hunt him in the mountains. Mountains so high they tickled the nether regions of heaven. Grey Wolf was a Chiricahua Apache medicine man who had led a war party in revenge for a massacre against his people. The U.S. Army had attacked his tribe during his daughter's sacred sunrise ceremony, and the slaughter was unspeakable. I understood his anger. as there's nothing more traumatic than seeing those you love die in a cruel and painful death. Right from the beginning, I couldn't shake the feeling that Grey Wolf was watching my every move. He led a band of young Apache warriors who wanted retribution and were more than willing to die for him. They saw me before I saw them. I came upon this flooded grotto, and that's when I saw him. He came to me unarmed and unafraid. His voice echoed in the shadows, and I sensed he meant me no harm.
You carry great darkness in your heart, and if you do not release it, it will claim your soul.
The sound of his voice put some kind of ancient Indian spell on me as his story unfolded in my mind.
You will come to this place again and kill many more men, and the darkness will grow until it consumes everything that you are. The soul would have no rainbow, the eye have no tears.
He said I was a great warrior, a coyote man, unequaled by any other pale-faced warrior, or something like that.
The snakes will bite shadows of your past until a venom poisons your heart, and an echo of the song of the dead summons the spirits deep from within the mountains.
I didn't quite get what he was saying, but there was definitely snakes. And indeed, his warriors surrounded me and attacked me like hungry wolverines. They couldn't stop me, though, and Grey Wolf wasn't in the mood for idle talk. I swear I couldn't see any way out of this trap. But suddenly, one just appeared, kind of like a miracle. Finally, I found myself back outside, perched on the edge of a precipice, overlooking a thundering whitewater river. To get where I was going required several leaps of faith, but no way in hell I was turning back. I chased after him, determined to make him explain the meaning of all that mumbo-jumbo.
Mumbo-jumbo is right. Are you making this all up as you go?
A few details may be fuzzy, brother, but I am relating exactly what happened to me. There were dozens of Apache warriors aiming at me from on high.
Dozens?
Well, maybe not dozens, but there was a lot of them.
At least 3 or 4.
Well, more than that, little lady. And wouldn't you know it, that crafty son of a bitch led me right into a trap.
What kind of trap?
Well, son, there had to be at least 100 Apaches surrounding us.
100?
God be my witness.
Oh, come on. Who are you kidding?
Hey, I believe you. Come on, tell us how it ended.
All right, but I'm not gonna drag this out. Where were we?
You were surrounded by 100 Apache warriors.
Well, I didn't take the time to count them exactly, but there were a lot of them. And in the end, a path appeared before me that I had not seen before. But it was like that son of a bitch disappeared into thin air. Never did find him. And never did collect my goddamn bounty. Thank you, darling. It's interesting how the truth can sometimes seem, might malleable, depending upon your point of view.
Like how those dime novels make you out to be something you're not?
Jack, don't be starting trouble.
No, he's right. They do tend to exaggerate.
Did they exaggerate your part in taking down the Daltons?
Well, I was there in the flesh, boy, so I saw what happened firsthand. Those Daltons were lawmen once, before they all went bad, robbing banks and trains clear across the territory. Until Coffeeville, of course. I was one of the citizens who took up arms that day.
fighting on the side of the riot?
I did my best, sir. We all did. It was early morning. One of my friends was a local gunsmith, and he handed out firearms to anybody who'd take one. You see, the Daltons got it in their heads to rob 2 banks at the same time. 2 banks on the same damn street. Story was Bob Dalton's girl was always writing him about how he had no ambition. Oh, you're nobody next to Jesse James, she'd say. Finally, the bastard took his brothers to Coffeyville just to shut her up. Well, the locals recognized the Daltons right off. Before they could get away, half the town took up arms to defend their property. The brothers paid dearly for their stupidity, but everybody knows they had it coming.
There's more to it than that. I read all about that day, so I know for a fact that it went down very differently. First of all, it was high noon. A posse of U.S. deputy marshals were on the rooftop across the street.
Get ready, boys. They're gonna make a move.
The lawmen had been tracking the Daltons for months, but now they finally had them dead to rights. Among them was a bounty hunter feared by many a lawbreaker. The marshals tried to get the Daltons to surrender.
They'll give up eventually. You just gotta wait for something.
This bounty hunter knew that the brothers were far too proud to ever lay down their guns. He went in there alone to confront those criminals. He saw a way to get around to the back of the bank. Then he figured out how to hit the Daltons from a direction they weren't expecting. It was brave men like him who risked their lives to tame this wild country.
We've got company. That asshole just killed Red? That's Silas Greaves. What the hell?
Blam! He came away victorious, taking down those thieving Daltons. His name was Silas Greaves, and when the dust finally settled, he was the last man standing.
Sorry, kid, but that just wasn't the way it happened. It was early evening, not high noon. The Daltons blew up a safe, and were all set to hightail it out of there. I was late to the party, and Coffeyville was already up in arms. Those pathetic deputies surrounding the bank were dropping like flies. I had been tracking those jokers for months, waiting for them to do something reckless. And finally, they did. Those stupid bastards decided to rob 2 banks at the same time in the same town where everybody knew them. But they still had friends in Coffeyville.
Hey, you got us a hero. Put some holes in him.
Those friends came after me like a pack of wild dogs, tooth and nail. They were coming at me from all directions. Those Daltons weren't the sharpest knives in the drawer, but they always stood together. They set a trap to slow me down and allow at least 2 of them to escape. The 3rd brother stayed behind to plant me, just in case that trap of theirs didn't work. It was Emmett, the youngest, and he decided to stand his ground and face me down.
I ain't afraid of you, Silas Greaves.
But Emmett Dalton survived the robbery in Coffeyville. He's the only Dalton who did.
They say he was shot 23 times.
Well, Dwight, who do you think put all those damn holes in him?
We'll get those suckers.
It took me a couple of days to track the Daltons down.
They can't get away with this.
And in that time, a whole posse of local vigilantes offered to lend a hand.
It was early fall, right? Beautiful time of year. At least you had the weather on your side.
Not by my recollection. It was damp and foggy as hell. It It was tough to stay on a true course, so we kept an eye out for landmarks. The vigilantes had spread out wide, and pretty soon I couldn't see anybody.
Bury him in
I wondered why my compatriots didn't come running when they heard the shots.
bounty hunter.
See, there's a reason so many outlaw gangs are made up of brothers.
So did you ever find the damn Daltons?
Not yet, but I did find a few of their cousins. You Kansans breed like rabbits. More Smiths or Heimhoffers or who knows what. But hell, what's more important than family? I bet Ben knows what I'm talking about. And that's when I saw it. A goddamn steamboat.
A steamboat in a swamp?
Yeah, Steve, but this wasn't much more than a wreck, really.
But how'd a damn steamboat end up in the swamps?
Yes, it floated off during the flood of '89.
Now, was it a stern wheeler or a side wheeler?
What? Does that really make a difference, Steve? It was a steamboat with a goddamn army on board. It was in that a fusillade of bullets come raining down from on high. And those vigilantes who accompanied me weren't anywhere to be found.
God damn you!
Right about then, much to my relief, the vigilantes finally arrived. Their leader motioned at a cabin in the middle of the top deck, pointing me directly at the Daltons. I finally had them, after months of dogged pursuit. But it turned out that they had me.
Take him out! I'm sending you to hell!
The Daltons had played me like a fiddle.
After all, is it?
Apparently, the vigilantes were on their damn payroll. They didn't just want to shoot me. They wanted to burn me alive. But finding my way out of a burning labyrinth proved to be quite a challenge.
It was a riverboat, right? I mean, it's not like it was a goddamn ocean liner.
Well, yeah, but I was in a
Did you
fight.
hear about that ship that's gonna launch next year? Laura just won the world.
You're
well,
talking about the Titanic. If you ask me, it's too blessed big. I don't think it'll even float.
So anyway,
Don't be stupid, Steve. They know what they're doing. They say that the Titanic is unsinkable.
oh God,
But getting back to that steamboat, how'd you get off it, Mr. Greaves?
I took in a lot of smoke that day, so I admit my recollection might be a bit hazy. But somehow I managed to finally disembark. It was time to settle this once and for all. Bob and Grat weren't about to come at me one at a time. They were in this together. Two brothers side by side, determined to take me down. Confident that this time the odds were on their side. They got it wrong. A sad end for those two. If they'd only known that Emmett was still alive despite his wounds. Paroled 14 years later, he moved to California and sold real estate and lived off the legend of that fateful day. And the tragic death of his two brothers. My own brothers died tragically as well, truth be told. It was 1868, and me and my older brothers were pulling a tidy profit running cattle into Juarez, Mexico. One night after my brothers retired for the evening, I found a little poker game in a cantina with a couple of cowboys. And I just couldn't lose. I even won an old Spanish coin that had to be 100 years old. Well, I was mighty pleased with myself the next morning as my brothers and I rode for Texas. But before we crossed the border, those cowboys caught up with us. It was Johnny Ringo, Roscoe Bob Bryant, and another asshole named Jim. They wanted their money back and everything else we had, including our lives, as those boys didn't want us coming for them later. Bob put that old Spanish coin in my mouth and said, "I won't have it said that I left you with nothing, boy." Well, those horses bolted, And there we hung as those bastards rode away. The branch finally snapped under the weight of the three of us, but being my older brothers were bigger and heavier, they were already dead. And right then I swore to myself that I would avenge them. Ringo you know about. But Bob eluded me, until I heard he was riding with the Wild Bunch. I'd been on their trail for months, ever since they left their hideout in the Bighorn Mountains. Led by Butch Cassidy, they were a loose association of outlaws who robbed banks and trains from Colorado to Montana. Among them was the Sundance Kid, and that murderous hombre I was tracking, Roscoe Bob Bryant.
Were you a part of that giant Pinkerton posse after the Wild Bunch?
No, boy. A circus like that would have slowed me down. Besides, I wanted Bryant all to myself. I'd heard about a large shipment of gold being transported to Wilcox, Wyoming on the Overland Flyer. I figured the Wild Bunch would likely hit such a treasure, and by God, I figured right. They blew the bridge with the intention of forcing the train to stop. Well, I assumed the Wild Bunch was likely in the still intact part of the train high above, so I had no choice but to make my way up through the passenger cars dangling down. I was determined to make that sumbitch Bob pay for what he did to my brothers. I jumped from the frying pan into the fire as the train was clearly fixing to fall. Found the gang, but in order to find old Bob, I needed to fight my way forward past a whole passel of desperados. I kept hoping the law would show up and give me a hand.
You mean like that giant Pinkerton posse that I read about? Did they come riding in, guns a-blazing to help?
Help? From the Pinkertons? No, son. I had to fight the Wild Bunch all by my lonesome, as usual.
Who the hell is that?
Only a few stragglers were left. I had to cut them down pronto if I was going to stay on old Bob's trail. Once I silenced all those guns, I went searching for my nemesis, determined to finally have my justice. But the only survivor who welcomed me was George Flat-Nosed Curry.
Who was he?
The fastest gun in the gang. Right after Sundance, I mean. On that very same day, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid decided to leave the Wild Bunch behind and decamped for South America. I tried to find Bob Bryant, but it was as if he'd disappeared. Sometime later, I heard the Wild Bunch was back together. Kid Curry escaped from jail, and now he was running the whole shebang. So I took to their trail, as I was still in pursuit of my brother's killer and hoped that he was back with him.
That Kid Curry's kinda crazy, ain't he?
Don't let him hear you saying that.
Anyways, I tracked those boys to a camp right outside Parachute, Colorado. Old Bob wasn't among them, and neither was Kid Curry. I could sense him close by, however, plotting something nasty. I just needed a clue as to their whereabouts. And I found one. A map with their bold plan clearly marked. This time they were fixing to blow up a train trestle, property of the Union Pacific. The plan clearly indicated how they were fixing to undermine several of the weakest wooden supports. Kid Curry had bragged to a whore how he was going to rob a train heading to the U.S. Mint in Denver. And that whore, Fat Sally, she told me. The bridge was rigged with dynamite, So I decided I'd best be careful confronting those bastards. And I made it a point to remove any dynamite that I came across. A moment later, I saw a ladder that somehow had escaped my attention.
Don't you blow us up now.
Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. What the hell?
But the Wild Bunch did not take kindly to my presence and attempted to blow my head off.
So that was all the dynamite?
Funny you should mention that, darling. As actually there was a fourth charge impeding my progress. There was a long burning fuse, and it was moving fast as hell. I had to catch it. The burning fuse was so damn quick, I had to run like the wind. I knew that failure meant boom. Then, finally, at the last moment. Whew. Of course, I was successful, or clearly I wouldn't be talking to you folks here today. Naturally, I removed the last dynamite charge.
Kill that SOB!
Make him bleed!
Send him to perdition!
Finally, I found those boys. Or more precisely, they found me. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Kid Curry opened up on me with a goddamn Gatling gun. It was hidden in this tunnel and pretty well shielded. Eventually, I brought that tunnel down. And that's when I met Kid Curry himself. He had decided to stop pussyfooting around and deal with me personally. As fast as he was, I was just a bit faster. And as he lay wounded, I demanded to know the whereabouts of Roscoe Bob Bryant. He shouted at me. "Is that what this is about? Bob went with Butch and Sundance to South America. You ain't never finding him." Those were his last words.
So, Bob Bryant got away?
I knew I'd never find him in South America.
What about the other killer?
Yeah, you kinda glossed over that one.
Well, I found Jim not long after my showdown with Ringo. At the time, he was riding with the James Younger gang. Did I neglect to mention that?
Jesse James? The greatest outlaw who ever lived?
Jesse and his kin rode with Quantrill when he raided Lawrence, Kansas, and killed near 200 people, boy.
Nothing great about that.
And from there, him and his brother went on to rob banks and trains from Kansas to Missouri.
Which is why there was such a rich bounty on their heads. 40 grand for both of them, dead or alive. That's one hell of a payday. I confronted them as they were robbing a train. Bullets were flying at me from every which way. But I knew I'd have to fight my way forward if I was gonna find this Jim.
Now wait a second. How'd they stop this train in the first place?
Well, the James boys were experts at this. They hopped a freight train having heard there was a big payroll in the express safe. So, I hopped the same train. The James Younger gang was decimated after that little fiasco they had in Northfield, Minnesota. So Jesse needed more men and took on the killer I was after, along with a host of others. Climbing around that train, I must have swallowed 100 damn bugs before I reached
James'
that...
younger gang pulled the first train robbery west of the Mississippi.
Sounds like you hold them in high regard.
Everyone knows they were the most famous outlaw gang ever.
And you took them all on by your lonesome. Again, I'm finding this all a little hard to swallow, friend.
Well, maybe you need to wash it down with some whiskey. By the way, did I mention that that train was flying down those tracks like a bat out of hell? Anyway, excuse me, Ben. Where would I find the gentleman's facilities? Suddenly I have an urgent need to drain my one-eyed snake. Well, I've had more than a few drinks, and I've been sitting here for quite a spell.
Right through there. Let me show you.
I never heard so much malarkey in my life.
You think he's bullshitting us?
You don't think he's Silas Greaves?
I think he's just some old drunk looking for some free liquor.
I don't know, Jack. I think I believe him. You don't think he met Jesse James?
Oh, you gotta be kidding me. That story makes no sense at all.
Jack.
I mean, you gotta be 2 bricks short of a load to believe that cock and bull story.
I don't agree.
Jack, lay off the bar.
But you seriously think that tired old man went toe-to-toe with Jesse James?
Well, that's better. Did I mention that this Jim was married to the infamous Belle Starr? Of course, I didn't learn that until later. Anyway, I made my way forward the best I could. It was then that Jesse detached the express car from the rest of the damn train. I could see Jesse waiting for me, fixing to kill me so he could get away with all that money.
You had a showdown with Jesse James?
Of course he didn't. Everybody knows that Jesse was killed by Bob Ford.
Yeah. Jesse went out like John Wesley HARDIN. Coward shot him in the back of the head.
Guess it doesn't matter how far you run, does it, Ben? Your past always catches up with you. Yeah, I didn't kill Jesse James. Just wounded him bad enough to convince him to hang up his guns.
What about that Jim fella? What happened to him?
I figure he was up front with a gun to the engineer's head. That bastard slipped away again. After my showdown with Jesse, I continued to track his brother, Frank, and that sumbitch Jim. I followed those bastards into the high mountains as they were going to ground.
What mountains would that be?
Somewhere in the Ozarks, I believe. The perfect place to hide out from the authorities. In fact, before I could find them, some Indians who fled the res and were hiding out from the military found me first. They probably thought I was a cavalry scout and didn't want me telling the military where they were.
Indians?
Yeah, they could have been Cheyenne, but there was all sorts of renegades roaming the landscape back then.
So, did you ever find him? The man you are after?
Let me ask you something, Ben. You ever think about death? Oh, hell. Oh, hell.
So, are you gonna answer the question?
What question is that?
Jim Reed. Did you ever find him?
Reed was indeed that sonbitch's surname. That's right, Ben. A despicable character. I remember him laughing like a hyena that cold morning they lynched me and my brothers. He was intent on avoiding my vengeance, but nothing was gonna stop me. I finally did track those outlaws down. They had long rifles with scopes and were well positioned to pick off any poor soul who came anywhere close. He backed off as I closed in on him, but he was still intent on killing me. Luckily, I had some dynamite in my possession.
Dynamite? On your person?
A few sticks, just in case. It's always good to be prepared.
Right.
I'm just laying out the facts as I remember them, Jack.
Silly liver bastard!
shack? Well, it went tumbling right off that cliff.
With Frank James still in it?
Yes, sir.
But Frank James is still alive, living in Missouri, showing folks around the family farm for 25 cents a tour.
I didn't say he died in the fall, now did I?
I'm done with this damnable outlaw life! Kill me, don't kill me, do what you will! At this point, I just don't give a shit!
I explained to Frank that I had nothing against him personally and that I was looking for someone else.
You want Reed? Have at him! I never did like that bastard! I am done here!
We parted in peace as Frank pointed out the path to my prey before making his way back down the hill. It was then that the last bunch of bandits jumped out of hiding.
Why won't this asshole give up? Would someone please kill him?
Eventually, it was just me and Reed. I had waited a long time to face him down, so I could repay him for what he did to my brothers. And repay him I did. Well, I don't know about you boys, but I'm pretty beat.
Well, it's too damn bad you never found that Bob character. Seems a shame you never had to pay.
Well, funny thing about that, I did have one more chance at him. Six months ago, I heard that Butch and Sundance were back in the States and had gathered up some of their old gang. I tracked them down, hoping that Roscoe Bob Bryant had returned with them.
So you're saying they didn't die down in Bolivia?
That's what I'm saying. 40 years I had waited to get my hands on the last of my brother's killers. Not even an army of demons could have stopped me now. Both Johnny Ringo and Jim Reed fell fairly quickly. But the last one, Roscoe Bob Bryant, that son of a bitch had managed to escape my vengeance time and time again. I couldn't even be certain I'd recognize him after all those years. By now, he had to be close to 70.
For all you know, he could have been dead.
That thought had indeed crossed my mind, as did others. The Wild Bunch knew I was there. They were after a treasure they had hidden before they fled, buried in the grave of a dead amigo. They lured me in and hit me with everything they had.
But you obviously prevailed since you're sitting here telling us the tale.
Actually, in that moment, I did not prevail.
So I suppose we're talking to a ghost.
Funny you should put it like that, Jack. Because when I woke up...
From the dead?
There was silence all around me. I could swear to God I saw Billy then.
Billy who?
Billy, the kid. William Bonney. He was shooting at me from a rooftop.
So I am right. You are titched in the head. You see that old Indian again, too?
No, but I did see Billy's killer. Patrick Floyd Garrett. He came at me guns a-blazing. I knew that old war horse had died 2 years before. I wondered if maybe I was dead too and confronting the ghosts of my past. Perhaps all my sins were coming back to haunt me and drag me down to perdition. I saw Henry Plummer throw dynamite at me. And in the gates of the cemetery, I saw John Wesley Hardin, just like I remembered him. Robert Ollinger appeared with his terrible double-barrel shotgun. But no ghost army was stopping me. Newman Hayes Clanton, William Brocious, John Peters Ringo, they all wanted me dead. Jesse, Woodson, James, and Jim Reed. Each one deader than the next. I thought I would go crazy.
Thought?
Finally, I saw Harry Alonzo Longabaugh.
The Sundance Kid?
Like a general leading his legion of the dead.
You told us before that you'd see him alive.
He was alive. Then I heard a voice call to me from afar. It was Robert Leroy Parker, a.k.a. Butch Cassidy, coming at me from out of the fog.
Thanks for taking care of that bastard.
But the kid wasn't quite deceased. Not yet.
Takes more than one little bullet to kill the likes of me, partner.
Those two looked like they hadn't seen each other for quite a while. Clearly, they were no longer amigos.
Shit. I was hoping I wouldn't have to kill you.
You won't have to, Butch. I'm killing you first.
I asked them about Bob Bryant, but they were too busy with their own heated conversation.
Let me get this shit straight. You want my money and the love of my life?
You figured it all away, Butch. Edda's mine. So is that damn money.
I didn't want to shoot anybody until I had an answer to my question, but those boys didn't give me much of a choice. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid died there in that cemetery not 6 months ago.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid were killed by the Bolivian army. Everybody knows that.
That's the legend, but it ain't the truth.
So, you never found Bob?
There is no Bob. This old sumbitch ain't even Silas Greaves.
Sir, is that true? Have you been pulling our legs this whole time?
Well, not the whole time.
Oh man, I think you've worn out your welcome here.
Maybe you're right, Jack. Maybe it's time to pay. You see, Ben, or should I say Bob, your past always catches up with you.
I was a different man back then, crazy. Drinking, I've changed my ways, I swear to you. If I could turn back the clock,
But you can't, Bob.
Why'd you toy with me like that? Telling those tales, knowing all along. Why not just lay your cards on the table?
Here. I won't have it said that I left you with nothing.
That's how you want it? So be it.
Holy shit! Right, Molly, move against that wall. Go!
Oh my God! Oh, Jesus!
Did you know it was him all along?
Cassidy told me Bob was in Abilene before he died. But I wasn't sure Ben was my man until he revealed how much he knew about Ringo and Reed. The coin, of course. Well, that was the last nail in that particular coffin.
I better go get the sheriff.
You okay, boy? You're looking mighty shook up.
Dwight, maybe you best go home. Young Eisenhower here is leaving for West Point tomorrow. He shouldn't get caught up in something like this.
I think I might head out myself at this juncture. Unless you want to stop me, Jack.
No, sir, Mr. Greaves.
So where you going now? Now that you had your revenge?
Doesn't really matter, does it? As I've sold my soul for it, and will never again walk with those I have lost.
Why'd you toy with me like that? Telling those tales, knowing all along. Why not just lay your cards on the table?
Wanted to suss you out, Bob. See what kind of man you turned out to be. Maybe prod you into drawing on me. See, all those years on your trail turned me into a killer. Can't even remember who I was before you tried to murder me. You, on the other hand, walked that very same path in exactly the opposite direction.
What do you mean by that?
You think your life is worth sparing, Bob? Boy, what's your name again?
It's Eisenhower, sir. Dwight Eisenhower.
What do you plan to do with your life, Dwight Eisenhower?
Tomorrow I'll be leaving for West Point, sir.
So, you want to be a soldier? Well, then do it right, son. Don't tear down the world out of anger and spite like I did. You build it up. You do something decent with your life, you hear me?
Sir? Yes, sir.
I won't have it said I left you with nothing, Bob.